She built an empire worth billions, but there was one thing money could never buy back: her sister. For 7 years, she searched. 7 years of silence. 7 years of unanswered questions, and one devastating goodbye. Until one ordinary night, in a place she would never expect, everything changed. Because the last person she ever thought she'd find was standing right in front of her, serving tables. Lusiana Thomas was a name the world respected. A self-made billionaire CEO who turned loss into power, pain into success. Her company dominated headlines. Her life looked perfect, untouchable. But behind the glass towers and flashing cameras, there was a story no one knew. A past she buried deep. A memory that refused to fade. 7 years ago, her younger sister, Helena Thomas, vanished from her life without a trace. No calls, no letters, nothing, just gone. At first, Lusiana searched everywhere. Police reports, private investigators, even traveling across cities chasing the smallest leads. But as time passed, hope turned into heartbreak, and heartbreak into silence. She told herself it was over. She forced herself to move on. Until one evening, a simple business dinner in a quiet, unfamiliar restaurant changed everything she thought she knew, because fate has a strange way of bringing people back. And sometimes, it chooses the most unexpected place. Before we dive deeper into this story, I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your location in the comments. I'd love to see how far this story is reaching. And if you enjoy powerful, emotional stories like this, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with someone who would love it too. Now, let's begin. Lusiana Thomas stepped out of the sleek black car, the city lights reflecting off its polished surface like stars trapped on metal. Cameras flashed in the distance, though she barely noticed anymore. This was her world. Fast, powerful, untouchable. Inside the towering glass building behind her, hundreds of employees worked under her name, her vision. She had built everything from nothing. Every deal, every risk, every sleepless night had shaped the empire she now ruled. But success had a cost, and Lusiana knew it better than anyone. Her heels clicked sharply against the marble floor as she entered her office. Assistants greeted her, voices filled with respect and a hint of fear. She nodded, composed, distant. "Your 8 p.m. dinner is confirmed, ma'am," one of them said. Lusiana paused for a brief second. "Cancel it." The assistant hesitated. "It's with the investors from." "I said cancel it." Her tone wasn't loud, but it was final. Moments later, Lusiana stood alone by the large window in her office, staring down at the city below. Cars moved like streams of light. People rushed, unaware of the weight she carried. Her reflection stared back at her, strong, successful, and empty. Her hand slowly reached into her bag, pulling out a small, worn photograph. 2 girls, laughing, carefree, a life that no longer existed. "Helena," she whispered softly. 7 years. 7 years since the arguments. 7 years since the silence. 7 years since she walked away, never looking back. At first, Lusiana had been angry, furious, even. She told herself Helena would come back, that she always did. But she didn't. The memory still haunted her. The last words, the slammed door, the silence that followed. And then nothing. No calls, no messages, no trace. Lusiana closed her eyes briefly, exhaling a quiet breath as if trying to push the past away. But some things don't stay buried. Her phone buzzed suddenly, breaking the moment. "Ma'am," her assistant's voice came through. "There's been a change. The investors insisted on rescheduling. They've chosen a new venue for tonight." Lusiana hesitated. "Where?" A brief pause. "It's a small restaurant across town. Not their usual standard, but they were very specific." Lusiana frowned slightly. Something about it felt off. But she had built her life on instinct, and ignoring it had never served her well. "Fine," she said finally. "I'll be there." She slipped the photograph back into her bag, her expression returning to the controlled, untouchable mask the world knew. But deep down something stirred. Something she couldn't explain. Because that night, in a place she would never normally go, Lusiana Thomas was about to walk into a moment that would change everything. The restaurant was nothing like Lusiana expected. No grand entrance. No polished marble floors. No quiet luxury. Instead, it was small, almost hidden, tucked between 2 older buildings on a dimly lit street. The sign above flickered slightly, and warm yellow light spilled from the windows, giving it a strangely comforting, almost forgotten charm. Lusiana stepped out of her car, her driver glancing at her uncertainly. "Are you sure this is the place, ma'am?" he asked. She didn't answer immediately. Her eyes scanned the building, her instincts whispering again. That same strange feeling she couldn't shake. "Yes," she said finally. "Wait for me." As she stepped inside, a soft bell chimed above the door. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Muted conversations, the clinking of plates, the smell of home-cooked food lingering in the air. For a moment, Lusiana felt out of place, like she had stepped into someone else's life. "Welcome," a voice greeted warmly. A young hostess approached, smiling politely. "Table for one." "I'm meeting someone," Lusiana replied, her voice calm but distant. The hostess nodded. "Right this way." Lusiana followed, her heels softer now against the wooden floor. Her eyes moved across the room. Families laughing, couples leaning close, strangers sharing quiet moments. It was simple, real, and unfamiliar. She was seated at a corner table. "Your server will be with you shortly," the hostess said before walking away. Lusiana sat back, glancing at her watch. 5 minutes passed, then 10. No sign of the investors. Her patience began to thin, just as she reached for her phone. "Good evening. I'll be taking care of you tonight." The voice, soft, familiar, too familiar. Lusiana froze. Slowly, almost unwillingly, she looked up, and time stopped. The tray in the waitress's hand trembled slightly. Her eyes widened in disbelief. The same eyes Lusiana had seen 1,000 times before. The same face, older now, worn by life, but unmistakable. "Helena?" Lusiana's voice barely escaped her lips. The world around them faded. The noise, the people, the moment. Everything disappeared, because standing right in front of her, in a simple uniform, with tired eyes and a life Lusiana could never have imagined, was the sister she had lost 7 years ago. Helena's lips parted, but no words came out. Only one truth hung in the air between them. This wasn't just a coincidence. And whatever happened next would change both of their lives forever. For a few seconds, neither of them moved. Lusiana stared, her heart pounding in a way it hadn't in years. This wasn't possible. She had imagined this moment so many times, dreamed it, even, but never like this. Not here. Not like this. "Helena," she said again, her voice shaking now. Helena's grip tightened on the tray, her knuckles turning pale. For a moment, it looked like she might run. And maybe she would have, if their eyes hadn't locked. 7 years of silence, shattered in a single glance. "You shouldn't be here," Helena said quietly. The words hit Lusiana harder than she expected. "I've been looking for you," Lusiana replied, her voice rising with emotion. "Do you have any idea what Please," Helena cut in softly, glancing around. "Not here." The distance between them felt heavier than ever. Not just physical, but everything unsaid. Everything is unresolved. Lusiana leaned forward, her composure slipping. 7 years, Helena. 7 years, and you just disappeared. No explanation. No goodbye. Nothing. Helena's eyes flickered with something deeper. Pain. Guilt. Maybe even fear. "I had my reasons," she said. "That's not enough," Lusiana snapped. A few nearby tables turned slightly, sensing the tension. Helena lowered her voice. "You don't understand." "Then make me understand." Lusiana shot back, her voice breaking now. "Because I deserve that much." Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. Helena swallowed, her gaze dropping for the first time. The confident front she tried to hold began to crack. "You think I wanted this?" she said quietly. "You think I wanted to end up here?" Lusiana blinked, caught off guard. "Then why?" she asked, softer now. "Why did you leave?" Helena hesitated. Her eyes met Lusiana's again, and this time, there was no hiding it. Just truth, waiting to come out. "Because staying would have destroyed both of us," she said. The words lingered in the air like a storm about to break. Lusiana shook her head slowly. "That doesn't make any sense." "It will," Helena whispered. "Just not here." A voice suddenly interrupted from across the room. "Helena, we need you in the kitchen now." Helena flinched. Reality snapped back into place. She looked at Lusiana one last time, her expression torn between staying and running all over again. "I'll come back," she said quickly. "Just don't leave." And then she was gone. Lusiana sat frozen, her mind racing. Questions. Memories. Pain she thought she had buried, rising all over again. But one thing was clear now. Helena hadn't just left. She had been hiding. And whatever truth she was about to reveal was far bigger than Lusiana ever imagined. Lusiana barely noticed the time passing. Minutes felt like hours as she sat there, her mind replaying every second from the moment Helena appeared. Her heart hadn't settled. It couldn't, because nothing about this felt real. Finally, Helena returned. But she wasn't carrying a tray this time. She pulled out the chair across from Lusiana and sat down slowly, her hands clasped tightly together, as if holding herself from falling apart. For a moment, neither of them spoke. "You look different," Lusiana said softly. It wasn't an insult. It was the truth. Helena gave a faint, tired smile. Life has a way of doing that. Silence settled again, but this time, it wasn't empty. It was heavy with everything waiting to be said. "You asked why I left," Helena began, her voice low. Lusiana nodded, her eyes fixed on her. "I didn't leave because I wanted to," Helena continued. "I left because I had no choice." Lusiana frowned. "No one forced you, Helena. You walked out." Helena shook her head slowly. "You only saw the door close," she said. "You didn't see what was waiting on the other side." Something in her tone made Lusiana's chest tighten. "What are you talking about?" Helena hesitated, then finally spoke. "Do you remember the night we argued?" she asked. Lusiana's expression hardened slightly. "I remember every word." "I didn't leave right away," Helena said. "I stayed outside for a while, trying to calm down." Her voice trembled slightly now. "And that's when they approached me." Lusiana's brows furrowed. "Who?" Helena looked up, her eyes filled with something dark, something unresolved. "People who knew about you," she said quietly. "About your company, your deals, your rise." A cold chill ran through Lusiana. "They thought I was your weakness." The words landed heavily. Lusiana leaned back slightly, processing. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," Helena continued, her voice steady now despite the pain behind it. "They wanted to use me to get to you." The noise of the restaurant faded again. Everything narrowed down to just those words. "They told me if I stayed close to you, if I didn't cooperate," Helena swallowed, "they would make sure everything you built came crashing down." Lusiana's heart skipped. "That's impossible. I would have handled it." "No," Helena said firmly. "You wouldn't have. Because I didn't give you the chance." Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't look away. "I left to protect you." The truth hit Lusiana harder than anything else that night. All the anger, all the resentment, all the years of believing she had been abandoned, shattered in an instant. "You protected me?" Lusiana whispered, her voice breaking. Helena nodded slowly. "I thought if I disappeared they'd lose interest." And eventually they did. Lusiana shook her head, overwhelmed. 7 years. Helena, you let me believe you didn't care." "I cared too much," Helena replied softly. That was the problem. Tears slipped down Lusiana's face before she could stop them. For the first time in years, the truth didn't feel like closure. It felt like pain all over again. Because now she understood, Helena hadn't left out of anger. She had sacrificed everything. But one question still lingered: if the danger was gone, then why was Helena still living like this? And deep down, Lusiana knew there was still something Helena wasn't telling her. Lusiana couldn't shake the feeling. Even after everything Helena had revealed, something still didn't add up. If the danger had passed, if those people were no longer a threat, then why was Helena still here? "This doesn't make sense," Lusiana said quietly, wiping the last trace of tears from her face. "If you were protecting me, and it's over now, why didn't you come back?" Helena didn't answer immediately. Her silence said more than words ever could. "Helena." Lusiana leaned forward, her voice softer now, but firm. "What aren't you telling me?" Helena looked away, her eyes drifting toward the window as if the answer was somewhere outside, somewhere far from this moment. "I tried," she said finally. Lusiana frowned. "Tried what?" "To come back," Helena replied. "More than once." A flicker of hope crossed Lusiana's face, quickly replaced by confusion. "Then why didn't you?" Helena exhaled slowly, as if the next words would cost her everything. "Because by the time it was safe for you," she paused, her voice trembling slightly. "It wasn't safe for me anymore." The room seemed to tighten again. "What does that mean?" Lusiana asked. Helena turned back to her, and this time, there was no hiding the truth. Those people didn't just walk away, she said quietly. Not completely. A cold weight settled in Lusiana's chest. They let you go, but not without consequences. Lusiana's mind raced. Consequences? Helena, what did they do to you? Helena hesitated. Then slowly, she rolled up the sleeve of her uniform. Lusiana's breath caught. A faint scar ran along Helena's arm. Not fresh, but not something that could be ignored. It told a story, one Lusiana didn't want to imagine. They made sure I understood the cost of coming back into your life, Helena said, her voice barely above a whisper. Not just for me, but for you too. Lusiana's hands clenched into fists. So you stayed away? All this time? Living like this? She asked, her voice filled with disbelief and pain. Helena gave a small, broken smile. It wasn't supposed to be forever. I thought I could rebuild, start over quietly. By hiding, Lusiana challenged. By surviving, Helena corrected softly. That word hit differently. Lusiana leaned back, her emotions swirling. Anger, guilt, heartbreak, and something deeper. Determination. You should have told me, she said firmly. You should have trusted me to protect you the way you tried to protect me. Helena shook her head. You don't understand the kind of people they are. No, Lusiana interrupted, her voice steady now, stronger. You don't understand who I've become. Helena paused. There it was. The shift. Lusiana wasn't the same person she had left behind 7 years ago. She wasn't helpless. She wasn't vulnerable. She was powerful. And for the first time that night, Helena looked unsure. Whatever you've been running from, Lusiana continued, her eyes locked onto hers. It ends now. A dangerous silence followed. Because this wasn't just about the past anymore. It was about what came next. And Helena knew. The moment Lusiana decided to step in, there would be no turning back. The air between them had changed. What began as shock, then pain, had now turned into something else entirely. Resolve. Helena shook her head, fear creeping back into her voice. Lusiana, you don't understand. Getting involved now, it could bring everything back. I've kept you safe this long, don't undo it. Lusiana stood slowly, her presence commanding, unshaken. No, she said firmly. You've been carrying this alone for 7 years. That ends tonight. Helena's eyes searched hers, hoping to find doubt. There was none. You built your life to protect me, Lusiana continued, her voice steady but filled with emotion. Now let me use mine to protect you. For a moment, Helena looked like she might argue again. But she didn't. Because deep down she was tired. Tired of running. Tired of hiding. Tired of surviving instead of living. What are you going to do? Helena asked quietly. Lusiana reached for her phone. I'm going to finish what should have been handled 7 years ago. Within minutes, everything shifted. Calls were made. Names were mentioned. Old shadows were dragged into the light. Lusiana didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Power wasn't in volume. It was in certainty. I want everything pulled up, she said calmly into the phone. Every connection, every transaction, every name tied to them. No delays. A pause. Then she added, her tone turning cold. And make sure they know I'm no longer someone they can threaten. She ended the call and looked back at Helena. It's done. Helena stared at her, disbelief written all over her face. Just like that. Not just like that, Lusiana replied. It took 7 years to get here. The weight of those words settled deeply. Because this wasn't impulsive. This was calculated. For the first time in years, Helena felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in a long time. Hope. But it came with fear. What if they come back? She whispered. Lusiana stepped closer, her voice soft but unwavering. Then they won't be coming back to the same people they once threatened. A silence followed. Not heavy, not painful, but different. Healing just beginning. Lusiana glanced around the small restaurant, the place where everything had changed. Pack your things, she said gently. Helena blinked. What? You're not staying here anymore, Lusiana continued. You're coming home. The word hung in the air. Home. Helena's eyes filled with tears again, but this time, they weren't from pain. They were from something she thought she had lost forever. After everything, she whispered. You still want me back? Lusiana didn't hesitate. You were never gone to me. And in that moment, 7 years of distance, silence, and sacrifice began to fade. But one final step remained. Because while Lusiana had made her move, the past hadn't made its last one yet. The night outside was quiet, but inside, A storm had finally broken. Lusiana and Helena moved through the small apartment, gathering what little Helena had left. Each piece of clothing, each trinket, felt heavier than it should. It wasn't just luggage. They were carrying 7 years of fear, secrecy, and stolen time. "You don't have to do this alone anymore," Lusiana said softly, slipping a coat over Helena's shoulders. Helena paused, clutching it. I don't know how to feel. Free, maybe? Scared, definitely." But her voice cracked. "But finally safe?" "Yes," Lusiana said, taking her hand. "Safe. And finally allowed to live." They stepped outside. The city lights flickered over the streets like distant stars. For the first time in years, Helena noticed them. Really noticed them. The freedom to look, to breathe, to hope. Everything felt different. Then, the sound of tires on asphalt made them freeze. Lusiana's jaw tightened. "They're here." Helena's eyes widened, terror creeping back in. But Lusiana didn't flinch. Instead, she stepped forward, putting herself between Helena and the approaching car. The car slowed, a shadowed figure stepping out. The moment stretched heartbeat after heartbeat. Then, the figure stopped, a man in a sharp suit, mid-40s, with an expression that flickered between surprise and respect. "Lusiana Thomas?" he asked, cautious, wary. "Yes," she replied evenly, her voice carrying authority. "And I suggest you remember that name. I've settled every account you thought you could use to control us." He hesitated, scanning her face, searching for weakness. There was none. Helena stepped forward. "We're done running," she said, voice firmer than she expected. The man's shoulders slumped. Something shifted in the air, a recognition of change. Whatever leverage he thought he had was gone. Lusiana reached for Helena's hand. "It's over. All of it." And it truly was. That night, they didn't just leave an apartment. They left behind fear, silence, and the shadow of the past. They drove away together, windows down, the wind tangling their hair, the city lights passing like ghosts that had once haunted them. For hours, neither spoke. Words felt unnecessary. The weight of what they had survived and conquered hung silently between them. Finally, Helena leaned her head on Lusiana's shoulder. "I almost didn't believe this day would come." Lusiana kissed the top of her hair. "It did. And it's only the beginning." Somewhere deep in their chests, a quiet certainty bloomed. They would no longer be defined by what had happened to them, but by what they had chosen, to stand, to fight, and to love without compromise. The first light of dawn broke across the skyline. Golden, warm, unshakable. For the first time in 7 years, both of them truly smiled. Because even after everything, love had endured. And now so had they.